The pregnancy test fell from my trembling hands, clattering against the marble bathroom floor as I stared at the two pink lines that would change everything. But it wasn't joy filling my chest, it was the crushing weight of betrayal, because 20 minutes earlier, I'd discovered that my husband of 8 years had just purchased a $2.3 million house with his work colleague Vivienne. My name is Isabella Romano, and at 34, I thought I had built the perfect life. I'm a forensic accountant specializing in uncovering financial fraud for high-net-worth divorce cases, and until this moment, I believed my marriage to Trevor was unshakable. We'd met in graduate school, built careers together, and I'd supported him through every promotion at his investment firm. I trusted him completely. That trust shattered when our mutual friend accidentally sent me a real estate listing instead of Trevor, congratulating him on his new love nest. The house was stunning. A craftsman-style home in the hills with Vivienne's name right there next to his on the deed. Hey everyone watching! If you're loving these stories of justice and revenge, smash that like button and hit subscribe for daily tales of people who refuse to be walked over. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, I love hearing from you all. Now back to how I made Trevor regret the day he decided to betray me. When Trevor came home that evening, whistling and carrying takeout from our favorite Thai place, I was sitting at our kitchen island with the real estate documents spread before me like evidence at a crime scene. Bella. Perfect timing, I got the pad thai you. His voice died when he saw the papers. She means nothing, Trevor? I asked quietly, my voice steady despite the hurricane in my chest. Because according to this deed, nothing just became a co-owner of a house worth more than our annual salaries combined. His face went through a series of expressions. Shock, panic, then that familiar look of calculation he wore when preparing to lie to clients about investment risks. Isabella, listen, I can explain. Oh, I'm sure you can. You always could spin a story. I picked up one of the documents. Joint tenancy with rights of survivorship. That's not a business arrangement, Trevor. That's what married couples do. He set down the takeout and moved toward me, his hands raised like I was a spooked animal. It's complicated. Vivienne needed help with financing, and I saw an investment opportunity. Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. I've traced financial deception for a living for over a decade. I know exactly what this is. That's when I told him about the pregnancy test upstairs. The color drained from his face completely. For a moment, Trevor looked like he might be sick right there on our pristine hardwood floors. You're pregnant, he whispered. Apparently so. Ironic timing, don't you think? I stood up, gathering the documents. I'm going to my sister's tonight. We'll talk tomorrow when you've decided whether you want to tell me the truth or keep treating me like I'm stupid. I packed a bag while Trevor sat in stunned silence downstairs. As I loaded my car, he appeared in the doorway, looking broken. Bella, please. Don't leave like this. We can work through this. Can we? Because from where I'm standing, you've been planning a life with another woman while I've been planning our future together. That doesn't feel like something we work through, Trevor. That feels like something that's already over. I drove to my sister Carmen's house with my mind racing. Carmen took one look at my face and poured me a large cup of herbal tea without asking questions. When I finally told her everything, she was quiet for a long time. What do you want to do? She asked finally. I want to make sure he can't do this to anyone else, I said. And I want to make sure this baby and I are protected from whatever financial mess he's created. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the signs I'd missed or dismissed. The late-night conference calls with Vivienne. The weekend team-building trips. The way he'd started dressing better, paying more attention to his appearance. The expensive cologne I didn't recognize. But mostly, I thought about how calm I felt. Not the hysterical, emotional reaction Trevor probably expected. Just cold, calculating fury and the satisfaction of knowing I had the skills to dismantle whatever web of lies he'd woven. The next morning, I called my office and took a leave of absence. Family emergency, I told my boss, which wasn't exactly a lie. Then I got to work. First, I accessed our joint financial accounts, all perfectly legal since my name was on everything. Trevor had been careful, but not careful enough. There were wire transfers to accounts I didn't recognize, payments to a property management company, and a series of cash withdrawals that painted a clear picture. But the real smoking gun came when I cross-referenced the property management company with public records. Trevor and Vivienne had been paying utilities, insurance, and maintenance on that house for 6 months. They hadn't just bought it, they'd been living there together. I printed everything, organized it into neat folders, and made copies. Then I did something Trevor would never expect. I called Vivienne directly. "Hello, Vivienne? This is Isabella Romano, Trevor's wife. I was hoping we could meet for coffee today." The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Finally, she said, "I think there might be some misunderstanding." "Oh, there's definitely a misunderstanding," I said pleasantly. "But I don't think it's mine. Are you free this afternoon? We met at a cafe downtown, neutral territory." Vivienne was younger than I expected, maybe 28, with the kind of polished appearance that screamed ambition. She arrived 10 minutes late, probably hoping I'd give up and leave. I was still sitting there, sipping my tea and reading through mortgage documents when she approached my table. "Isabella?" She slid into the seat across from me like she was approaching a bomb that might explode. "Thank you for coming," I said. "I imagine this is awkward for you. Look, I think Trevor should be the one having this conversation with you." "Trevor has had 8 years to have honest conversations with me," I interrupted gently. "I'm more interested in hearing your perspective." Vivienne shifted uncomfortably. "I'm not sure what Trevor has told you about our working relationship." "He told me you mean nothing." I watched her face carefully as I said it. "But according to these documents, you two have built quite a meaningful financial partnership." I slid a copy of the deed across the table. Vivienne's composure cracked slightly as she saw her name in black and white. "It's not what you think," she said quickly. "It's an investment property. Trevor said you knew about it, that you were fine with it because you don't like real estate investments." Interesting. So Trevor had been lying to both of us, just different lies. "Did he also tell you I was fine with him spending weekends there? With the furniture purchases? The joint insurance policy?" Vivienne's face went pale. "What furniture purchases?" I showed her the receipts I'd found. Bedroom furniture. A dining set. Kitchen appliances. All delivered to their shared address. "When did you last spend time at this house?" I asked. We had a meeting there last week about some renovations." "Renovations to an investment property? Or renovations to your home together?" She was quiet for a long time, studying the documents I'd laid out like a prosecutor presenting evidence. "He told me you two were separated," she said finally, her voice small. "He said you'd grown apart, that you were focused on your career and didn't want the same things anymore. He said the divorce was just a formality you were both putting off." There it was. Trevor's lie to Vivienne was that I was already out of the picture, just too stubborn or busy to make it official. "We've never been separated," I said gently. "In fact, I just found out yesterday that I'm pregnant with his child." Vivienne's eyes widened, and I saw something shift in her expression, not just shock, but anger. "He's been talking about wanting to start a family," she whispered. "With me. He said you didn't want children, that it was one of your fundamental differences." "I've wanted children our entire marriage. We've been trying for 2 years." We sat in silence while Vivienne processed the magnitude of Trevor's deception. Finally, she looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "I would never have gotten involved if I'd known the truth. I'm not a homewrecker." "I believe you," I said. "And I think we both deserve better than being lied to and manipulated." That's when I made her an offer. "I'm going to make sure Trevor faces consequences for this betrayal. Not just to me, but to you too. You've invested time, money, and emotional energy based on his lies. If you're willing to work with me, I can make sure we both get what we deserve. Vivienne stared at me for a long moment. What did you have in mind? I explained my background in forensic accounting and my suspicions about what else Trevor might be hiding. If he was willing to lie this extensively to his wife and girlfriend, what was he willing to lie about to his clients and employers? I need access to information I can't get legally on my own, I said. But if certain information happened to come to light through official channels. Vivienne was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Trevor has been asking me to help him move money around lately. He said it was for tax purposes, but some of the transactions seemed unusual. What kind of unusual? Client funds being temporarily moved to personal accounts, then back. Always with explanations about timing and processing delays, but... She trailed off. But your instincts told you something was wrong. She nodded. I work in compliance. These things send up red flags for me, but Trevor always had reasonable explanations. That's when I knew we had him. Over the next week, Vivienne and I worked together to document everything. She provided internal company records showing Trevor's unusual fund movements, and I analyzed them for patterns that suggested fraud or embezzlement. What we found was worse than I'd imagined. Trevor had been running a sophisticated scheme, using his position to temporarily borrow from client accounts to fund his lifestyle and investments. He always paid it back before quarterly reviews, so it looked like paperwork delays rather than theft. But the amounts were getting larger, and the timing more frequent. The house he'd bought with Vivienne wasn't just a love nest, it was a money laundering operation. He was using rental income from properties like this to justify unexplained cash flows. We had enough evidence to destroy his career and possibly send him to prison. But I wanted to give him one chance to come clean. I called Trevor and asked him to meet me at our house. When he arrived, I was sitting in his home office, surrounded by boxes of documents. Bella, thank God. I've been worried sick about you. We need to talk about the baby, about our future. Sit down, Trevor. Something in my tone made him stop mid-sentence. He looked around the room, taking in the organized chaos of financial records, and his face went very still. I know about the embezzlement, I said quietly. I know about the money laundering. I know about all of it. Trevor sank into the chair across from his desk, looking suddenly much older than his 36 years. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been stealing from client accounts to fund your lifestyle and your relationship with Vivienne. The house, the furniture, the trips, it was all paid for with other people's money. I always put it back. That doesn't make it not theft, Trevor. You know that. He was quiet for a long time, staring at the evidence I'd compiled. Finally, he looked up at me with something that might have been relief in his eyes. What do you want? He asked. I want you to turn yourself in to your company's compliance department and the SEC. I want you to make full restitution to every client you've stolen from. And I want you to sign over your half of all our shared assets to ensure this baby is provided for. And if I don't? Then I submit all of this evidence myself, along with testimony from Vivienne about your requests for her to help move money. You'll face federal charges instead of internal discipline, and you'll lose everything anyway. Trevor stared at me for a long time. You've really thought this through. I've had a very educational week. What about Vivienne? What about her? She's been as manipulated by your lies as I have. The difference is, she's choosing to do the right thing now. Trevor nodded slowly. And us? Our marriage? There is no us anymore, Trevor. There hasn't been for months, apparently. I'm just making it official. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, paperwork, and damage control. Trevor followed through on his promise to come clean, which earned him internal discipline and restitution requirements instead of federal charges. His career was over, but he avoided prison. Vivienne resigned from her position and took a job with a competitor, after providing testimony that helped the company recover all the stolen funds. She sent me a thoughtful note apologizing for her role in the situation and wishing me well with the baby. The divorce was finalized quickly, with Trevor signing over his rights to our house, savings, and half his retirement accounts. The prenup we'd signed years ago protected both of us from each other's debts, which meant I wasn't liable for any of his restitution payments. I kept working throughout my pregnancy, taking on freelance forensic accounting projects that let me work from home. It turned out there was quite a demand for someone with my skills and reputation for discretion. 6 months after I found those real estate documents, I was holding my daughter Elena in the house that was now completely mine, financially secure and surrounded by friends and family who'd supported me through the hardest period of my life. Trevor asked to see Elena once, about a month after she was born. I agreed to meet him at a neutral location, the same cafe where I'd first confronted Vivienne. He looked tired and older, wearing a cheap suit instead of the designer clothes I was used to seeing him in. His new job at a small accounting firm was a significant step down from his previous position. "She's beautiful," he said, looking at Elena with something that might have been regret. "She looks like you." "She's healthy and happy," I said. "That's what matters." "I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I need to say it. I'm sorry, Bella. For all of it. You deserved so much better." "Yes, I did. But I'm getting it now." He nodded. Are you happy?" I looked down at my daughter, then around at the life I'd built from the ashes of his betrayal. I had a thriving business, a beautiful home, friends who respected me, and a future full of possibilities. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be," I said. Trevor left that day, and I haven't seen him since. He sends child support payments on time every month, but he's never asked to be part of Elena's life beyond that. I think he knows he lost the right to that when he chose lies over love. A year later, I ran into Vivienne at a professional conference. She'd rebuilt her career and was doing well at her new company. We had coffee and talked about resilience, about learning to trust our instincts, about the strength it takes to start over. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd fought each other instead of working together?" she asked. "He would have gotten away with it," I said. "Both of us would have been casualties of his selfishness. Instead, we both came out stronger." She was right. The betrayal that should have destroyed me had instead revealed capabilities I didn't know I had. It showed me that I could stand up for myself, that I could be strategic and decisive when it mattered most. Trevor thought he could manipulate two intelligent women by keeping us in the dark about each other. Instead, he gave us the motivation and information we needed to expose his crimes and rebuild our lives on our own terms. Elena is 3 now, brilliant and strong-willed and completely unimpressed by anyone who tries to underestimate her. She has her father's eyes but my determination, and I'm raising her to trust her instincts and never let anyone make her feel smaller than she is. Sometimes people ask if I hate Trevor for what he did. The honest answer is no. Hate requires ongoing emotional investment, and I've invested that energy in building something better instead. What Trevor taught me is that the most devastating betrayals often come from people who underestimate our strength. They assume we'll be too shocked, too hurt, or too dependent to fight back effectively. But they're wrong. When someone shows you who they really are, you don't have to stay and watch the rest of the performance. You can choose to write your own ending instead. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that ending turns out to be better than anything you originally planned. 3 years later, my forensic accounting practice has grown into a full consultancy firm. I specialize in helping people who've been financially betrayed by partners, business associates, or family members. There's something deeply satisfying about using the skills Trevor's deception forced me to sharpen to help other people reclaim their lives and assets. Elena speaks in full sentences now and has an uncanny ability to spot when adults are being dishonest with her. Last week, she looked at a client who was minimizing her husband's financial abuse and said, "Why are you making your voice so small? Mommy says we use our big voices when something is wrong." The client started crying and finally told me the whole truth about what her husband had been hiding. Sometimes children see what adults trained themselves not to notice. I never remarried, though I've dated occasionally. Elena and I have built a life that feels complete on its own terms. We travel, we laugh, we have adventures, and we've created a home filled with honesty and security. Last month, I got an unexpected call from Vivienne. She'd been promoted to senior compliance officer at her firm and wanted to refer a client to me, a woman whose business partner had been embezzling from their shared accounts. I told her about how you helped me see the truth about my situation, Vivienne said. She needs someone who understands financial betrayal from the inside. I'll take the case, I said. And Vivienne? Thank you for trusting me enough to work together back then. We both could have lost everything if we'd let Trevor's lies turn us against each other. Instead, we saved each other, she said. That's what I tell people now when they ask me about the most important lesson I've learned in my career. Sometimes the person you think is your enemy is actually the person who can help you find your way to the truth. The case Vivienne referred turned out to be one of the most complex I'd ever handled. The business partner had been not only stealing funds but also manipulating the books to make it look like his victim was the one mismanaging money. By the time I was done unraveling his scheme, we'd recovered over $400,000 in stolen assets and documented a pattern of financial abuse that led to criminal charges. My client sent me a photo 6 months later of herself cutting the ribbon at the grand opening of her new solo practice. "Thank you for giving me my life back," she wrote. That's what this work is really about, not revenge, but restoration. Helping people reclaim not just their money, but their sense of self-worth, their ability to trust their own judgment, their belief that they deserve better. Trevor taught me that betrayal reveals character, not just in the person who betrays you, but in how you choose to respond. You can let it make you bitter and suspicious, or you can let it make you stronger and more compassionate. I chose strength. I chose to build something meaningful from the wreckage of his lies. Elena is starting kindergarten next fall, and she's excited about making new friends and learning to read chapter books. When people ask her what her mommy does for work, she says, she helps people find their money when bad people try to hide it. It's not wrong. Sometimes justice looks like dramatic courtroom victories or public humiliation. But sometimes justice looks quieter. Like a woman who discovers her own strength, a child who grows up knowing she deserves honesty and respect, a successful business built on helping others heal from betrayal. Trevor thought he was smart enough to manipulate two women into accepting his lies as truth. Instead, he taught us both that we were strong enough to demand better, smart enough to uncover deception, and brave enough to start over. The house he thought would be his secret love nest became evidence in his downfall. The money he stole to fund his double life became the foundation for restitution that rebuilt the security he tried to steal from me. The lies he told to keep us apart became the truth that brought us together to expose him. In the end, Trevor got exactly what he deserved, not because I sought revenge, but because I sought justice. And justice, it turns out, has a way of revealing itself when you shine enough light on the truth. Elena and I are exactly where we're supposed to be. And that's the best revenge of all.